So, welcome to week 6. Today is Monday, May 4th, and I really saved all the gross ones for this week. So, I apologize in advance, but these are some really cool examples. Because what we're going to do is we're going to be talking about LS2-2 parasitism. Right here, we have a GIF of a snail, and infecting the snail is a flatworm. There's actually a few flatworms. Yeah, so these are the flatworms inside the snail. Now, can you see what's going on? The flatworms are infecting it, so that's a big hint that this is not something that the snail wants. Right? The snail is actually being hurt by this relationship, and I'm going to show you a video about what that means. All right, so as you can see from the video, the flatworm is benefiting because it's getting eaten by a bird. The bird poops it out. The eggs get sucked up by another snail. It grows in the snail, and it repeats. So it allows it to make babies and stuff like that. The snail, on the other hand, isn't killed through this process, and that's key here for parasitism. It's hurt through the process, but it's not killed. A parasite doesn't want to kill the host. It just wants to use it and use its resources and stuff like that. So this is an example of symbiosis where organisms live together. But this example is not a beneficial one for both. It's only beneficial for one. So it's parasitism. So it's kind of like that uncle who crashes at your place, but also goes into your fridge and eats all your food, right? Maybe stays up all night and parties and parties and parties, but never really helps out much. Right? So parasitism is a relationship where one organism benefits and the other, the host, is harmed. Now it's not killed, but it's harmed. And here's another really gross example. This is called a botfly. So I'll finish with the botfly later. I'll save the best for last. So just kind of keep the botfly in mind. So let's give some more examples. We have tapeworms. Tapeworms are really gross examples of parasites. They live inside your intestine, and what they do is your intestines have all the glucose and nutrients from your digestion, and what it does is it steals it. And to get rid of it, you might have to give your dog some pills and stuff like that, or they have to go into the anus and pull out the tapeworm. And of course, I have a video of that. So that was kind of gross, right? With the tapeworm, you got to make sure that you don't eat infected food and stuff like that. Cooking your food is probably helpful and stuff like that. So in the tapeworm example, the tapeworm is benefiting because it's getting nutrients from the organism. The host organism, let's say the dog, a pig, even human beings, they are harmed, right? They're losing nutrients, but they're not killed. The tapeworm doesn't want to kill the host because if the dog dies, then the tapeworm has to find another dog. So it likes to keep the dog still alive, stuff like that. Another example of parasitism are cuckoo birds. So cuckoo birds, what they do is they're really lazy. They're lazy parents. They don't want to build their own nest. They don't want to feed their own babies. So instead what they do is they lay their eggs in a host nest, and the eggs trick the host mother to feed it by sounding like a bunch of baby birds. As you can see, the cuckoo bird doesn't look like the baby bird, but it sounds like the baby bird, and it's tricking the mother bird into feeding it. And I have a video to show you for that.
So bringing up the young is a very demanding business indeed. And in most birds, it requires the full-time labour of both male and female. But one or two birds manage to avoid it altogether. And one of them is a regular visitor to this reed bed in England. A cuckoo, and she's raiding a reed warbler's nest. That's one of the reed warbler's eggs gone. And while she holds a second in her beak, shuddering with the effort, she lays one of her own. The match is near perfect. The cuckoo's is the one at the front. The reed warblers don't notice the difference and continue incubation. The cuckoo has timed her action with care. She laid her egg immediately after the female reed warbler laid the last of hers, but it develops much faster and will hatch 3 or 4 days before the legitimate eggs do. The young cuckoo, blind and naked, now deals with the remaining warbler eggs. Two weeks later, the monstrous young cuckoo is so big that it can no longer fit inside the tiny nest. Its brilliantly coloured gape, together with its call that mimics the sound of a whole brood of warbler chicks, constitute a demand for food that the warblers find irresistible. The European cuckoo's habit is so famous that we tend to think it's the only bird to behave in this way. But there are birds in half a dozen other families that do so as well.
So there's so many examples of parasitism. We talked about the flatworm infecting the snail. We talked about the cuckoo bird tricking the host mother. We talked about the tapeworm living inside the intestines. Even plants can be parasites. So at school, there's a strangling fig near the wood shop, metal shop when you're leaving the school. And what it does is it grows from a seedling that's in the branches and it goes down into the ground. While it's growing down, it's not really harming or helping the host tree. But once it reaches the ground, what it does is it starts to grow thicker and it starts to strangle and kill the host tree. So we see these a lot in some parks where you'll see a hollow inside that used to be another tree, and then the strangling fig grew around it. So next time you're at school, you should try to check that out. It's when you're leaving the parking lot, it's on your left-hand side near the metal shop.